Question for you about curiosity. How do you manage to be someone who is wildly curious and yet also insanely productive from a writing standpoint, from a publishing standpoint? At some point you have to stop reading and then decide to work. How do you manage that, especially today with the proliferation of just insights everywhere?
There's two parts to this question, so let me try to answer each one. Curiosity doesn't mean reading more, but I'm a big fan of reading. Curiosity means being prepared to make an assertion. So when you see something you don't understand, you have to either walk on by, which dulls the mind, it's apathy, or you have to say, maybe it's like this because of that. So for example, some of you know I rant about the showers in hotels. The showers in hotels should all be exactly the same design because there's no prizes for innovation. It should be like you turn it and it gets hot, you turn it, it gets cold, that's all it does. The one last night in LA was 3 nested dials. And if you turned it one way, it got cold, and you turned it the other way, it got hot. But if you turned it all the way past hot, it stopped getting hot and made the other head put water out. Right? Now, I'm looking at this and I'm saying, not, that sucks, but I'm saying, someone thought this was a good idea. And I'm curious about that. Now, there's no way for me to read about it. There's no book on shower design for hotels. If there was, there'd be no problems. So I started imagining, what's the worldview of somebody who finally gets a chance to either design a shower controller or buy one for a hotel? And what are the pressures on them? And what are the story they need to tell their boss? So I asserted something. And I was probably wrong. But that's a version of curiosity, that the way we become designers of a future is by asking 3 questions. Who's it for? What's it for? And how will I know if it's working? That's design thinking, those 3 questions. So the who's it for was clearly not me. Was clearly no business traveler at 3 o'clock in the morning that this was for them. So who was it for? Well, maybe it was for the architect trying to persuade the client that this hotel could charge extra because it had hip architecture. Oh, what's it for? To give the architect, give her something fresh and new that she could brag about in a meeting. Oh, how will I know if it's working? Because the client says you can build the hotel. That's my series of assertions. So that's the kind of curiosity I'm talking about. Second half of your question was about being productive, and I think there's a couple things here. The first is, I don't have a television and I don't go to meetings. So I don't use Twitter or Facebook. So I got 10 hours on almost everybody. But the second thing is that either you develop this instinct to ship or you don't. And the reason I think everyone should have a daily blog, even if no one reads it, even if you write under an assumed name, is because every night you go to bed knowing you got to write something when you wake up in the morning. And your subconscious will do it. My friend, the late Isaac Asimov, wrote 400 books, published 400 books in his lifetime. Books, of course, the science fiction, but books on the Bible and science and lots of other things. How did he do it? Isaac, I say, how did you do it? He says, it's simple. Every morning I wake up at 6:30 and I go to the manual Underwood typewriter in my living room overlooking Lincoln Center. And I type until noon. And then I'm done for the day. And it doesn't matter if what I type is good. I just keep typing. And once your subconscious knows you're going to type no matter what, it gets better. Because it says, I don't want to waste my time writing bad stuff. I'll make the best stuff I can. Because it didn't work. He couldn't stop himself. He just kept typing. That is possible today. But we have to get past this idea that it has to be perfect and polished and everyone has to like it. Because the critics that don't like it are merely telling you it wasn't for them. So now you know who's it for and what's it for.